Have you ever looked at something truly groundbreaking and wondered, how on earth did they build that? Not just a small improvement, but something totally new? Well, today, we're going to unpack a mental model for doing exactly that. We're talking about how to tackle those quote-unquote impossible projects. So, what does it really take to build the future from scratch? It's a huge question, right? But the answer, it turns out, isn't just about working harder or having a bigger team. It's about thinking in a fundamentally different way. You know, conventional step-by-step thinking, that'll get you a slightly better version of what we already have. But for a real breakthrough, you need a completely new playbook. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to build this powerful mental model for innovation by pulling together ideas from 4 different sources. And then we'll see how it all comes together in this incredible real-world case study. Get this. It's about one person building a massive web-scale search engine from scratch in just 2 months. Yeah. Seriously. All right, let's kick things off with the absolute foundation, the starting block for thinking differently. This is all about the why that drives real innovation. The core idea is called first principles thinking. And it sounds complex, but it's actually pretty simple. It's the practice of breaking a problem all the way down to its most basic, undeniable truths. You strip away every assumption, all the, well, this is how we've always done it thinking, until you're left with just the fundamental building blocks. And only then do you start building your solution back up. Elon Musk is probably the most famous example of this. You know, he didn't ask, how do we make rockets a little bit cheaper? He asked, what is a rocket actually made of? And by breaking it down to the raw material costs, aluminum, copper, and so on, he realized that the parts only cost about 2% of the total price. That was the aha moment. The insane cost wasn't a fundamental truth. It was just a result of how things had always been done. And this slide really nails the difference. See, most of us, most of the time, we reason by analogy. We look at what others are doing or what we've done before, and we copy it with slight improvements. And that's fine. It's efficient. But it traps you. First principles thinking is way harder. It forces you to stop and ask that tough question. What are we absolutely 100% sure is true here? And then build from there. And this is exactly what brings us to our case study. An engineer named Wilson Lin didn't set out to build a better Google. No, he went back to first principles. He asked a really fundamental question. Why can't a search engine always show me amazing, high-quality content instead of all the SEO-optimized junk? He challenged the basic assumption that search results have to be a noisy mess. Okay, so you've got your revolutionary why. You've reimagined what's possible. Now for the how. How do you actually build this thing? And the answer, well, it might surprise you. There's this fantastic essay by Shaun Guday where he makes this brilliant point. Good system design is often, well, boring. It's not about using the newest, flashiest, most complicated tech out there. It's about picking simple, reliable tools that do one job really, really well. I love this quote. A complex system that works always evolves from a simple system that works. You have to start simple. Now, the biggest source of that dangerous complexity, it's something called state. Just think of it as the system's memory, all the information it has to keep track of from one moment to the next. And the parts of your system that handle that memory, usually databases, those are the places where things get messy and break. So the goal is to keep that part as simple and bulletproof as possible. And this is a perfect example of that principle in action. Wilson Lin, our search engine builder, he started with PostgreSQL. It's an amazing, powerful, do-everything database. But for his specific task, just swallowing millions and millions of web pages, it was overkill. It was creating all this overhead and bloat. So he switched to RocksDB, a much simpler, boring tool that was built for one thing, ridiculously fast writes. He picked the right tool for the job based on first principles, not just what everyone else uses. Okay, so we've got our revolutionary why and our practical, boring how. But you know, technology just for the sake of technology, it's useless. It has to be anchored in solving a real problem for a real person. According to Brian Armstrong, the founder of Coinbase, you build great products by being completely obsessed with the customer. And it's more than just looking at data. It's about talking to your users, as in every single week, to really truly understand their pain. You have to feel the problem you're trying to solve. And this is the pain that Lin was obsessed with solving. Just look at this table. Traditional search engines are basically just keyword matchers. They don't get what you mean. You ask a complex question, you get a bunch of random documents that happen to have those words in them. Lin's goal was a neural search engine that understood your intent, the meaning behind your words, and just gave you the answer. That is a huge deal for developers, researchers, really anyone. So what happens when you combine all three of these ideas? When you reason from first principles, use boring but powerful tools, and obsess over a real human problem, well, you get this. 3 billion. To understand what words actually mean, the system had to turn language into math. It created 3 billion of these neural embeddings, and it did it using a massive cluster of 200 GPUs. 50,000. At its peak, the system was crawling the web and processing 50,000 pages every single second. Just think about that for a moment. And what did that all add up to? In just 2 months, an index built completely from scratch, containing 280 million high-quality web pages. The sheer scale of what one person accomplished is just mind-blowing. But you know, big numbers don't mean anything without results. And here they are, the proof. On the left, you search for best programming blogs on a major search engine, and you get a bunch of generic, SEO-optimized listicles. On the right, Lynn's search engine gives you actual, high-quality essays written by individual developers. It's the difference between signal and noise. And this was the real magic. This is what it was all for. The engine could understand intent so well that you could literally copy and paste an entire paragraph into the search box, and it would find these incredibly nuanced, high-quality essays that matched your thinking. It wasn't just a search tool, it became a tool for discovery. So let's put it all together. Here it is, our mental model for innovation. It starts with a big chunk of first principles thinking. You have to question everything. Then it's built using that boring, solid system design, using simple, powerful tools. And the whole thing is driven by a relentless, obsessive focus on solving a real human pain. Which really just leaves us with one final question to think about. We all have projects we want to build, problems we'd love to solve. So what would happen if you really, truly stopped reasoning by analogy? If you just threw out the way it's always been done playbook, what fundamental problem would you solve?